The Nahanni Valley is a trace of deserted wild and lush woodlands in Canada's northwestern territories. Nahanni is derived from the indigenous Dene language name, meaning river of the Naha people's land. Many creatures live here, including grizzly bears, caribou, wolves, alpine sheep, goats, and many more. The valley contains 4 big canyons with depth of above 1,000 meters. This park was one of 4 natural areas designated by UNESCO as World Heritage Sites in 1978. However, this is no average tourist attraction. It can only be reached by plane, boat, or overland walk. Furthermore, it is supposed to be haunted or cursed. There were reports of bad spirits and demons haunting people, as well as sightings of a wolf-like monster named Wahila. Even the Naha tribe, which lived in the valley, unexpectedly vanished. The park's center has been characterized as a tropical jungle, with hot springs and monsters such as mammoth, Bigfoot, and even giants. However, most people will agree that Nahanni Valley is better renowned for another heinous reality. This is because many gold prospectors who ventured into the region suddenly disappeared or perished. The horrible state in which most of the dead bodies were discovered earned the region the moniker the Headless Valley, as the bodies were discovered headless. It all began in 1904, when 3 brothers, Willie, Charlie, and Frank Mcleod, decided to explore the Nahanni Valley for gold. They arrived at their destination after a lengthy trek during a particularly cold winter, and set up camp on the river's bank. They packed their tents and supplies and returned home after discovering gold later that year. Unfortunately, their boat overturned and sank, taking with it all of their provisions, including the gold. But they made a new boat out of their shattered one, and some lumber from surrounding trees, and returned to their original campground. However, no gold was discovered this time, so they decided to return home the following day. Willie and Frank wanted to return to Nahanni Valley to look for gold again, but Charlie refused. They embarked on a second trip in 1905, but this time, they never returned. Charlie was first unconcerned. However, after a year had passed with no news from them, he gathered a crew of 4 men to go seek for them. When they arrived at the campground, he noticed no trace of his siblings, neither upstream nor downstream. They walked farther into the valley till they came to the first of 4 massive canyons. There was a tent on the riverbank. A body lay outside the tent, its right arm groping for a rifle propped up against a tree, its garments burned, and its head missing. Another body was discovered beside the tent, this one also headless. Personal items discovered on the campsite confirmed their identity as the Mcleod brothers. Another skeleton was found on the riverbank along with a carving on a tree which read, "We have found a fine prospect." In other words, gold had been found, but there were no traces of it anywhere. Following the finding, the Canadian Mounted Police speculated that the men had died of starvation, and that wild animals had severed their heads. 8 years later, Martin Jorgensen set off in search of gold. He even constructed a 1-room cottage 112 kilometers upstream from Headless Valley. But when his partners were supposed to meet up with him as agreed, he did not show up. Instead, they found his cabin burned, and inside the cabin, a burnt body, headless. Police did not connect the murders, even though Martin's skull was never located and no gold was found. But the public did not believe the police and assumed there was a killer on the loose. Despite these inexplicable fatalities, there were still a few gold prospectors who wished to visit Headless Valley. In 1921, a prospector named John O'Brien and his partner set up camp near the Mcleod brothers' campsite. When John suddenly disappeared one night, his partner went looking for him. He found John frozen to death sitting upright near a previously lit campfire, holding a matchbook. Police discovered nothing unusual about his death, despite the fact that numerous people reported John as having been flash frozen in a matter of seconds. In 1926, a woman named Anne Laferte disappeared from a hunting party overnight. A hunter was awakened from his sleep by the splashing of falling rocks on the river. He described seeing a naked white woman running up the mountainside on all fours and looked as if she had been possessed. Her description matched that of Anne's. A prospector, Angus Hall, simply vanished without a trace. The cabin of another prospector, Phil Powers, was discovered severely burnt with very little of Phil remaining. A miner from Ontario named Ernest was discovered dead in a sleeping bag, headless. There have been 44 documented disappearances by 1969. The most recent example is that of David Horace and Frederick Hardesty, two seasoned bushmen. These men went missing from their cabin in 2005, and the corpses were recovered a month later in locations that had already been explored. David in heavy undergrowth with birds on his arms, and Frederick floating in the river. Their cabin was riddled with gunshot holes on the walls and floor, indicating that something else had occurred prior to the men's inexplicable disappearances and deaths. In recent times, no mysterious disappearance has been reported, mainly due to the fact that many areas of the park have been designated as restricted areas, except for park-approved scientific research. To this day, the disappearances that took place in Nahanni National Park remain unsolved and unexplained.